Hello.
Hello, Benj. How are you, mate?
Hey, all right.
Nice
Good.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes. Never met, have we? We might have met somewhere.
Oh, it seems unlikely that we haven't met,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Right.
But I was just saying, so my head's in a spin at the moment. I just did another Zoom with some friends of mine who were making all these amazing recordings, featuring a giant nature sound library.
Wow.
And I have something I'm going to ask you a bit later on if you'd be interested in getting involved. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. I like your studio.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm down in the studio at the moment.
I've been looking at various videos and stuff. So right now, there's a lot to talk about here, as you know. We've had quite do you know, it's amazing how many times your name has popped up in conversation with various people I've already interviewed.
Right. Okay.
John Fox,
Yeah.
obviously, and
Yes. Neil,
Hannah Peel, and
Hannah. Yeah.
yeah, and
And Mal.
yeah, Mal. You know what? I love the creep show stuff.
Oh, cool. Right. Yeah.
It's happening. I'm
Yeah.
envious because Mel's one of my oldest friends. I mean, he's
Yes. I
part
know.
of the reason why the Human League ever started.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. He was our They were all the whole of the Cabaret Voltaire were like our mentors.
Yeah. Yeah.
We thought they were old and experienced, and they were 2 years older than us. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
quite funny. So let's start at the very beginning. Tell us about growing up and how you got so interested in
Um.
record.
Well. Yeah. I guess it was. I come from a sort of my family my parents ran a sort of small school for autistic kids, and I was brought up,
Oh,
and that was in the sort of family house, and I was brought up in that environment of kind of like people around all the time, um and kind of interesting things happening all the time, and they had like a little music room in the school. This is in the 70s.
like a sensory room, was it?
Like, well, they had sensory rooms, but no, it was an actual music room with like a piano in there. But they also had like like a sort of old organ thing, like a not a posh one, just sort of some cheap organ. And then, but the good thing was that there was just like a family friend that had built this kind of modular synth, like a sort of. This is in probably like the early 70s, so it's kind of really primitive with banana connectors, like on a.
Yeah.
And he donated this synth to the school, and I used to spend my evenings, like when I get home from normal school, just kind of going into the music room and playing around on all this old gear.
Wow. How old were you?
I was probably about 10, 12, that sort of when I
All hail neuroplasticity. No, that's the point where you need to get the
yeah,
shit in there, and that's what changes your
exactly.
perceptions.
And I remember playing on this modular synth thing. It was called the Black Box. It was about this big, and it had like VCOs and filters and like a sort of patch bay on it where you put all the banana things in. And that's kind of my first experience of real making sounds, was this modular synth thing. So that was kind of weird. And then that kind of disappeared. Obviously, like this school music room kept evolving. And I remember I was about 16 or 17, and I asked my dad what happened to the modular synth thing, because I hadn't seen it for years. And he was like, oh, it had been up in the loft. They'd stored it up in the loft, this synth, and like it had a battery in it, one of those big sort of blue. Do you remember those?
Right, exploded.
And it had exploded, and my dad had sort of said, "Oh, I sort of threw that away last month, that thing."
Oh,
And I was like devastated.
no.
That was when I first started kind of thinking I should get into synths again, and sort of and that's when I built a little home studio, like just a bedroom studio with like an Akai sampler, and I just got into making my own music, and I suppose, yeah. So and then I kind of went to art college. I wasn't that musical I've never been trained musically.
Neither.
No, but I was always into drumming. I was a kind of drummer at the time as well. So I was in loads of little bands, playing drums.
Right.
And as the drummer, you kind of become the kind of utility person, because you'd have a car. I had a car when I was like 18, and I just drive everyone around everywhere and sort of, you know.
You had a car and you were a drummer. You must have got all the girls, no doubt.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't. I definitely didn't get all the girls, but I got all the kind of rubbish bands kind of following me around. So I was in like about 6 or 7 different bands, and just like every night would be going off doing a gig or rehearsal or, that
Did
sort
you
of thing.
record that shit?
No, none of those bands kind of really. They were all fun to do, and I learned a lot and everything, but none of them kind of went anywhere. I guess the closest was a few years later when I was in a band that kind of nearly got signed, but it didn't happen, um and then I went to university, so I studied fine art, basically, and painting. I was a painter, so I was kind of into that like world a bit more for a while. But I was at college with I went to Goldsmiths in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, and Graham Coxon was there. He was, Graham from Blur, and he was like the year below me. So he asked me to join his band.
Right.
They weren't called Blur then; they were called whatever they were before that. I can't remember now. But and I can't, because he was like the year below. I was all kind of like, oh no, it's all right, mate. I'll be all right. And so I didn't join the band. But then like they got signed that like a month later or whatever, and then he left university because they got signed. So so I could have been in Blur, kind of. But
I prefer what you do now, to be honest. But that's my view.
maybe I've not really got many regrets. But no, I mean that's kind of it would have been a different world, I guess. But I kind of, yeah. So after university, I kind of, that's when I really got into my studio and making music. And I never kind of continued my painting, but I kind of switched paths onto doing kind of experimental music and electronic music, basically.
I've got I mean, I think in some respects there is quite a few similarities between our upbringing, except I didn't get a module. I started with a modular synth, right?
Right. Yeah.
A System 100,
Yeah.
right, which is just my favorite synth. Still,
Same. I think it is probably one
it's
of my,
the best sounding anyway.
yeah.
And the most logical anyway. But and so I don't have any, apart from being in the choir at school or playing recorder or whatever it was, got
Yeah.
no musical training whatsoever. Never had any interest in it. Never had any interest. I played guitar for one day and hurt my fingers, so I gave that up.
Yeah.
And as soon as I got a job as a computer operator in the 70s, I had the chance to either buy a synthesizer with my first paycheck on HP, because I'll put
Right.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or buy a second-hand car. And fortunately, I chose a Korg 700S,
Nice.
which
Yeah.
is a beautiful machine as well.
Yeah.
Did being boiled on ultimately.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And I still can't drive. So
Well,
yeah,
that's a
that's
good.
quite good. But anyway, I learnt about arrangement, timbre, kind of, height in a mix, if you like, however you want to
Yeah.
describe it, all through analog synthesis and pure tones, modulating for different things.
Yeah.
And I think that has a major effect on the way that one, because I know so many people have been to music college, or
Yeah.
some of them were concert level, and I actually had one of them turn around to me and say, "I wish I could unlearn what I've learned."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I never think that about growing up with electronic.
Yeah. I mean, I did learn piano when I was kind of really young, but I really hated it. I hated all this, like learning the technical side of it and practicing scales, and I just never bothered with it. I'm a kind of one finger
Oh,
synth.
me too.
And in fact, that's one of the reasons I like modular stuff, is because you can get amazing sort of stuff out of it, but you don't have to play a keyboard to kind of do it. And that's what I mean, most of the stuff I do now in the studio is all sequenced with either analog sequences or just sort of intermodulating things. So it's kind of not, I'm not a keyboard player,
No,
actually.
me neither.
Not, yeah, I'm not coming
I
from
have to live, but it's like a struggle for me.
Yeah.
I would never make a helicopter pilot. I couldn't do like or think simultaneously with my limb, and all that.
And play the keyboards at the same time.
Yeah, very good. But it's really interesting. I mean, I was lucky in a sense. I'm significantly older than you, I think, and I was just at the point where synths were becoming affordable because I mean I grew up with going to see Keith Emerson in the Electric Compartment.
Right. Oh wow. Yeah.
And Mountains and Modular,
Yeah.
most of which were.
What is it, John? What is it John Peel said about Emerson, Lake and Palmer? They're a waste of electricity.
Ah, I'd have to disagree. I thought.
I disagree. I love all that stuff, and
I think Tarkus was just hilarious. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, where was we going? So electronic music. We've established we both grew up. You much earlier than me, with an appreciation of the plasticine of electronic sound that you can mold into whatever shape you want.
yeah, yeah.
So what were your main musical influence outside?
I did
Outside.
do, yeah. So that I guess it's sort of we're looking at sort of mid '80s to late '80s when I was really kind of started to get into music, and I was into post-punk stuff. I was into like bands like Wire and obviously Cabaret Voltaire and John Fox, all the stuff that I still kind of like listening to. But I was also into experimental stuff, Stockhausen and the weirder the better, anything like that. I was really into that growing up. And
Are you sure we're not separated at birth?
it's weird, isn't it? You get these kind of outsiders that just don't. I mean, I just like any good music. It's not. I don't really have a specific.
I'm with you.
I liked a lot of classical music. My parents used to play classical music a lot, just on records and things.
Who's your favorite 20th century classical composer?
20th century. I think I would like someone like Webern. Is he 20th century? Yeah, he's.
Yeah, I think so.
Things like that, and also
I like Shostakovich.
Shostakovich is amazing. Yeah, his what is it? His fifth is just yeah.
Oh my God. I was lucky enough to do a piece with the Royal Ballet in the Royal Opera House, and it was a hybrid piece of Shostakovich. I think it was the fifth, yeah. And we wrote some pieces that kind of weaved in and out electronically into it.
Oh, yeah.
Andy Bell singing a part, and we had 20 dancers on stage from the Royal Ballet, and it was fucking.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, have you done stuff for theatre?
Yes, I did something with John Fox. We did. There was a production of. Do you know The Machine Stops? It's a really amazing sort of sci-fi book written before, in the sort of 1890s or something. It was this incredible, by E.M. Forster, I think it is, and it's about this. He wrote a book about this kind of future world where everyone lives underground and they've got little kind of iPad things, and they all communicate. They're all connected to this kind of system, this computer called the Machine, and it's called The Machine Stops. And there was a production of it up in where was it, in York, that me and John did the music for that. It was a really interesting process,
right?
Because they made a play out of the book, an adaptation of the book, and we released that as an album called The Machine Stops. It's kind of like a lot of the stuff I do. It's kind of using old gear, but trying to kind of put it in a modern context, sort of thing. So.
You release your own. You've got your own label, of course.
Yeah, I've got my own label.
You've got several labels, haven't you?
I've got one proper label called Expanding Records, which we put out vinyl, and that's been going for years, since like '95 that started. But then I put stuff out now more on my Bandcamp page.
Right.
Is kind of is where I release my solo stuff now.
Right.
I don't really do vinyl anymore. I did a cassette tape about 2 years ago.
Oh,
I find like the production side of things and the manufacturing side it's such a kind of pain to do these days. So I kind of like the Bandcamp format. It's kind of really suits my sort of homemade sort of.
yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. I've kind of not really gone into it, but
Yeah.
I don't release that much stuff, but recently there are several labels that do like special editions, and it's normally looking back in your past catalog.
Yeah.
But there's one label called Cold Spring who's done some stuff for a special edition of our early BEF stuff.
Right.
It's electronic stuff, music for stowaways. It was on cassette actually.
Okay.
And they put that out, and there's no money in it anymore, so I'll just go, yeah, do what you want. I don't care. It all adds to the kind of mystery of the whole thing. And they've started. I've got a 3D sound company that puts out there's huge installations around the world. Yeah,
Right.
we write the content for it as well. We've done it for 25 years now as a sidebar to M17, and he started showing interest. The Cold Spring has started showing interest in putting out special editions of our installation work, which I think is fascinating.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to do a series of those with them. I'm actually not interested in even signing a contract anymore. I'm so bored with all that bullshit.
Yeah.
Just put it out, send me a couple of boxes.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? I like that kind of I mean, if I literally were living hand to mouth and I had to earn money, then obviously wouldn't be able to do it. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we are of a similar kind of thing. But so let's go back to when this kind of, what do they call it, swinging door moment or whatever, where you could have been in Blur but you weren't. And so tell us about your path from there. You've obviously, you did this label and you started producing for people. So tell us about some of that stuff.
Yeah. So what I just started out by setting up my own home studio because I was so interested in all the equipment side of it, and not just synths, but the recording side as well, with the effects units and drum machines, all the studio stuff.
Space Echo.
Sorry?
Space Echo.
Space Echoes, and anything I could just get cheap. I mean, I only ever bought old secondhand stuff, but it was in the sort of early 90s, and that's when everyone was chucking their old synths out. I mean, they were literally doing that because I found stuff that was abandoned in the street or in skips and things.
Oh.
I found my MS-20 was a skip find. It was literally just thrown.
Was it working?
Yeah, I mean, it was working.
Oh, with
people just gave it all away back then. They didn't even sell it, or if they did sell it, they'd just stick it in like loop or something like that, or sound on sound in the back, and it'd be sold for like 50 quid or something for like. So I bought so much stuff back then at that time because I realized that this stuff was amazing and I was so interested in it, in old synths and things. So I would buy stuff through that sort of period and just fill my sort of bedroom studio up with like bits of old junk. Everyone just thought I was kind of mad. I think my best sort of deal ever was a CS80, which I got for $600.
Oh my God.
I got that from America, and it cost me like $300 to ship it over.
They cost an absolute arm and a leg now, don't they?
Oh, now they're going for crazy, 60 grand or something ridiculous. So
really,
yeah. So it's like that was just one of those things. But I mean, I bought a lot of stuff that hasn't gone up in value or just is broken down. I've had to kind of.
What's your rarest synthesizer?
I've got something called an EMS polysynth, which is like, so they made the VCS3, and that was a big success for them. The VCS3 is like a legendary.
Yes.
And then they made, in the late 70s, they kind of wanted to go get all kind of up to date and current. So they tried a polysynth,
Right.
and it's like this crazy, amazing polysynth that's actually completely rubbish, but it looks amazing, and it's got some really like unique features on it that literally nothing else has got. Like it's got a built-in analog delay unit, and it's voltage control.
What do you mean analog delay? What do you mean by that?
Like do you remember those Memory Man or something? It's like a Bucky Brigade delay unit.
Well, it's not tape. It's
Not tape. It's like in between. Yeah, it's not digital, but I guess it is some kind of chip. They call them Bucket Brigade chips, and you can do all that really cool feedback where it all starts to kind of
gullible, like the Watkins copycat and all that.
yeah. So but it's not a yeah. So but it's got it's built into it, this delay unit, and it's voltage controllable, so you can like patch LFOs to it.
Oh.
So this synth, and I think they only made about like 30 of them or something. It was a complete flop, and it's quite big, so it's kind of bulky, and no one wants. And I got that really cheap on a deal. I tell you what I used to do. Right? I'd go somewhere, I'd go like and answer an advert and go and buy something and then I'd always ask them, "Are you selling anything else?"
Right.
When I was there or met up in the car park somewhere, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I've got a few bits in the garage," sort of thing. And then I'd sort of find a few other things. I think the polysynthy was one of those, like I just
beating it against the wall in a garage somewhere.
yeah, exactly. But that's kind of I actually really like the polysynthy. If people want to Google it, it looks. I mean, I would say it's the coolest looking synth ever made.
Have you done an episode of your video podcast?
I've done, yeah. It features in the first series. It features in one episode, but I'm gonna feature it again because it's kind of one of those. I'm gonna do an actual kind of segment on it. But
Can you just briefly tell people about your exploits on YouTube?
Okay, so about 2 years ago, I started to put out this thing called the Meme Tune program, which is a television series. I just sort of wanted to do something. I wanted to kind of do something on YouTube and build up my kind of YouTube profile a bit. And I just thought I don't want to just do it bit by bit. I want to kind of do something special. So I decided to make like a 40-minute episode with different sections in. And I ended up making 6 episodes in that first series, and I'm now on sort of series 3, halfway through series 3. So each episode
is very popular.
No, not really. I mean, I get about a few thousand views, which isn't bad, it's all right. And I want it to be more popular. I spend a hell of a lot of time doing it. It's very incredibly time consuming, and
You wouldn't do it unless you wanted to do it. I mean, I feel the same way about this
yeah,
it's like when I first started doing it, I thought it's just my mates that I know from the 80s, and I'll just do about 10 or 20 of them on 250 near.
No, and I'm working my way through them actually.
It's insane. I mean, it's completely. I often think the metaphor for me is, that Hitchcock film. I can't remember which one it is, but there's that amazing scene where they're in a fairground, and there's a roundabout that's out of control.
Yeah.
And it tilts up, and I thought when I was a kid, I thought that was terrifying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm on now with the podcast. I can't help the fucking thing.
Can't get off it, yeah.
Oh no. Anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I'm glad that you're on it, because it would have been remiss of me not to include you on this, because you are the absolute king of the target audience for this podcast.
Well, I think I've watched about 15 now, and they're all amazing. I really enjoy them. It's get to know all these people that you know about, but you don't know.
Well, also I often think, say for instance, I got introduced to you and we were at some party or something, or like whatever, and we go, oh, let's meet in the pub and have a chat, and have a pint or whatever. You're never going to have the kind of level of discussion that we're having now.
No,
I have with the other guests.
Yeah.
Because you'd never focus on that one thing when
Yeah.
you're out in a public place.
Yeah.
It'd be weird if I invited you to my house and we just sat there talking shop, it's just
Yeah.
odd. When you're in studio, it's different. But I record all these on Zoom. So,
Yeah.
did you ever meet Vince Clarke?
I've not met him face to face. I've done a Zoom with him because I'm actually working on a project with him.
Great.
Yeah, with Neil Arthur from Blancmange.
Oh, Neil's great.
Neil's great. Yeah,
One of my favorite people.
he was here last week, so we're doing stuff.
That's exciting.
Yeah, so we're working on that, and it's kind of I can't really say much about it because it's not really been announced, but it's kind of it's a really cool thing to be doing, and I'm getting, I'm working with Vince because he's a complete like hero of mine, obviously, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we got a lot of sort of synths in common, as you say,
In hell, he's the only person I know that's probably got more synths than you.
He has got, I'm sure, yeah. So yeah, but I've not managed to meet him actually because COVID happened during this. This has all been going on a while, and it's kind of a lot of rubbish happened in the meantime. So we are finally kind of getting around to doing that now, which is great. And weirdly, he's from Woodford, which is kind of one stop from where I'm from, which is Loughton. So we're both like out on the central line.
It's like the Bermuda Electronic Triangle.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're kind of we're both Essex boys.
And Alison Moyet and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're from a bit further out, I guess. In where are they? Billericay or somewhere, or
Yeah,
something like that. I think.
good lord.
Yeah. So
There's a big thing, wasn't there? In is it Basildon or whatever?
yeah, Basildon. That was it. Yeah.
And I knew, of course, I've never been to London at that point, let alone anywhere else.
Right, yeah.
It's interesting that these different scenes were happening at the same time.
Yeah, I think the Sheffield scene probably was the first. I would say it's kind of the first electronic. Would you say? I mean, obviously you had the kind of the radiophonic workshop and like doing stuff, but really that early electronic stuff was really Sheffield. I would say was.
I'd say the edgier side of it, because
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, Cabaret Voltaire were like our mentors, and
Yeah.
and they had their own studio, which we were envious at.
Yeah.
And nothing like yours or Vince's or whatever. It basically had, a load of pedals and guitars,
Yeah.
Super 8 projectors, and
Wow. Yeah.
we might have had one synth, I can't remember. But it was more about the attitude towards making music, which
Yeah.
completely changed my world, actually.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Never wanted to be them, ever.
Right.
No, they were close friends. Didn't want to make music like Cabaret Voltaire because it was a painful experience going to listen to them, to be brutally honest.
Their early stuff is, it's kind of.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it got more accessible later on. They were friends with Throbbing Gristle and.
Yeah. Wait, I'm just gonna move my dog who's barking a lot and it's really annoying me. One sec.
Problem.
I'm back. Yeah. All right.
I just want to tell well, actually, it didn't go out immediately on YouTube. It usually a couple of months later. It's audio straight off. But for those later on who are watching it on YouTube, thank you for this.
Oh yeah, my annuals.
Yeah,
You're right.
Tune annual, and it reminds me greatly of when I was growing up and buying, kind of Magpie annuals and
Yes.
video.
That was the idea. I wanted to do something quite faithful to that kind of.
Yeah, that been updated.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
This stuff. And it cheered me up great. And he's got a crossword.
There's even a crossword. God, that was hard making a. Have you ever tried to make a crossword? That's quite a tricky.
I'm sure there are programs that can help you do that.
Maybe, but I had to do it all manually, and it was because Yeah.
And I love this stuff with
Oh, yeah.
all the knobs do, and
It's all very geeky. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna get you to sign it if I ever meet you.
Okay.
The anyway, my first exposure, actually, even before the System 100 and the Korg 700S, was Ian Marsh, who was in the Human League as well, bought a kit
Oh, right.
called, and it was from, one of those electronic supply stores.
Yeah.
Maplin, it could have been Maplin.
Yeah, they used to.
Called Gutron. Do you know about that?
No, I don't, but I'm going
Caught you.
to. I'm going to have to look that up.
He built it from parts, and
Wow. Yeah.
like IKEA thing, I suppose. And I remember we used to go to this kind of arts youth club thing in Sheffield called Meet Whistle, where we all met.
Yeah.
And he turned up one day with this black kind of synth-shaped cabinet with loads of binary switches in rows.
Oh, yeah.
And a joystick. This is the important thing because we're all big fans of Eno, right? So
Yeah.
joystick, a keyboard, obviously, and a few patch cords. And I'm going, that is so fucking cool.
So it's a modular then.
Yeah.
Patch.
And check this out. The only way that you could tune it up to a scale, because it wasn't by default in tune,
Yeah.
was there were two knobs, one on the left of the keyboard, one on the right. And you had to actually manually create the registration of the keyboard.
Got you. Yeah. Right.
Man, and it would go out of tune all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in essence, you couldn't play anything on it. It was like you could get great motorcycle sounds and stuff like that.
Helicopters. Yeah.
Helicopters, and that was about it. But
Yeah.
it looked amazing. Yeah,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that was my introduction to electronic music and the stylophone and the dual stylus stylophone.
Right. I had a stylophone, but I mean, I think in a way that kind of gave synths a bad name because they're so limited. It's like, they just make one noise and it doesn't have any.
The dual stylus one was different because it had a photoelectric cell that you could use for wah wah and tremolo and stuff.
I see. Right. Oh, I don't know about that one. Yeah.
Anyway, and you could play two notes, of course.
Yeah.
It's,
That does open up the possibilities quite a bit. Yeah.
that'd be funny if you had a stylophone where you could like have the stylus attached to your fingers, and you could.
Yes.
That'd be kind of.
That's a good invention. Yeah.
Anyway, what's the quirkiest synthesizer that you possess? Would you say?
Oh, it's sitting right here next to me. It's this thing. Can you see that?
Oh, it's beautiful. I don't care what it sounds like.
It's amazing. It's basically it's called the Crystal Machine, right? And it's got, it's not switched on. It's got like neon lights on it and sort of
No.
weird. Yeah, it's incredible. And it was it's actually on loan to me from a friend of mine. But it was made for a guy called Tim Blake. That was like a keyboard player from Gong, that band Gong. They're kind of like space and Hawk. I think he was in Hawkwind, and then he started his own project called the Crystal Machine, which that thing is called. And it's actually used on all these amazing albums that he made in the 70s. And
Wow.
but it's basically a double synthy, EMS synthes.
Oh, I see. So that's what it's based on, yeah.
Yeah, it's two EMS AKs there.
Right.
In a blue box.
I once saw Gong
Oh,
live in the car park round the back of Virgin Records in Sheffield.
really?
Yeah. In
When did that?
1972.
Wow. Okay,
It was Camembert Electric.
I love all that stuff. Yeah.
And it was the hippiest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was tremendous fun. I didn't understand it, but
they're completely off the wall, but actually musically they're all really amazing. Like the drummer was fantastic, and it's really complicated. It's complex music that's really well put together and really well played.
no, it's very clever. I mean, I lucky enough to grow up with bands that were even more insane, like Magma and
Oh yeah, yeah.
And all that prog rock stuff. I love
I
that.
was really into prog as well. I loved Mahavishnu Orchestra and
I went to see them at Sheffield City Hall in 1974.
incredible. I would love to.
Blew my mind.
Was that with Billy Cobham on drums or
Can't remember.
probably Billy Cobham? Yeah, I loved Mahavishnu. I loved it. Slate and Palmer.
Too.
Oh,
Bring it on.
yeah. Yeah. So that's kind
Pictures of the exhibition was good too. I really like that.
yeah, that's all good. All that stuff is good. They went a bit cheesy, like a lot of those bands. They went a bit sort of the late stuff is a bit cheesy for me, but
Yeah.
you know, what I mean,
My favourite of all of them, I love King Crimson and
yeah.
Robert Fripp. Thank God he's a mate of mine. You know,
Oh wow.
he's the greatest guitarist on earth. But anyway, but Van de Graaff Generator.
Yeah, amazing.
I loved their. Torn Hearts. What an album!
Yeah,
Fuck me.
I need to revisit it.
Plague of Lighthouse Keepers, an 8-minute track. You know,
Yeah,
with a lot of PCS3 all over it. Actually,
yeah, okay, yeah.
um,
I do like all that. I mean, I kind of was a bit late to that party. I kind of got into them when they'd all finished. They'd all broken up by the time I actually
I
played.
like solo albums and stuff.
Yeah, but I like but yeah, I grew up listening to their earlier stuff, and all the early to mid 70s prog stuff is fantastic. And I like some of that jazz fusion stuff as well, like the Herbie Hancock, the early, that Headhunter stuff, and Miles.
Incredibly underrated, I think, Herbie Hancock.
He's amazing. Yeah, I mean, he went like his 80s stuff is fantastic, like Rocket, and there's like 3 albums. I think Bill Laswell produced like 3 albums with him that are incredible from that period, in that sort of early 80s period.
Way ahead of the curve. And
Yeah,
I remember seeing that film that was on the internet of him and Quincy Jones. And
right.
explaining,
I've seen that. Yeah,
yeah,
fantastic.
how he's making Rocket and stuff. And
That's in that video, that studio they're in is a bit like, yeah, in here.
yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Have you, right, here's another question, which probably I could only ask you or Vince. Have you ever been tempted to create a piece that includes all your connectable synths?
Wow.
Like a kind of symphonic orchestra?
I like like a mega patch. Well, I did actually do. I'm going to do a little like 360 on my studio. This is my control room, right? And it's just like modular synths,
Wow.
like all round sort of thing. So,
You have a big digital patch bay or physical patch bay?
I've got a physical patch bay which is over there, but that's my kind of
Got it.
digital racks. Like all my MIDI stuff is there. But so actually, part of one of my episodes for my TV program, I did in the last series, I actually did connect all the modulars together.
Right.
Tried to make like sort of, press one button and then they all stop.
Yeah.
But it turned out a bit, it's very abstract. It's not exactly musical. It's kind of just all bleeps and weird. But it kind of worked in the sense that they did all kind of start triggering and playing together. But you couldn't call it a kind of piece of music. It was more like an experiment in logistics,
Here's an idea. Here's a thought. And this is another thing that had a big kind of epiphanal moment for me. I went to see Robert Fripp doing his Frippatronics thing.
Amazing, love that.
In the foyer of the Purcell Rooms in London.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-hour performance on a Saturday morning, I think it was.
Just back in the day,
Yeah. I was in like 1970, late 70s, I think.
Yeah, amazing.
And because I was obsessed with like all the stuff he was doing with Eno and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just him and his guitar and about 5 copycats.
Yeah.
And a load of pedals and stuff. And it all seemed very mysterious and like magical to me, like he was a wizard, and all this stuff. He's playing all these parts, and I love it. And it's just a little. I can't remember what the amp was he was playing through. It's probably a Vox 1830 or something.
Yeah.
Quite warm and lush, and he's playing all this stuff, and it's going into this system, and everything's kind of feeding off each other, and he's just got it so perfectly judged that the feedback just carries on forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so he did like 2 hours. I was kind of in a trance, and then he just stepped off stage and left it going for the entire weekend. And it had a big influence. It had a big effect on me. And the idea of trance music, and I don't mean trance, but I mean trance as in more like Vangelis, I suppose, or stuff like that, and stuff that's genuinely, even drone music.
Yeah.
It's more like it touched a kind of ancestral thought in me of like we're all just from some pagan age,
Yeah.
begin to get free drugs, and
There is a connection between the drone and electronic music. It's so good at drone sort of bass stuff and that sort of trance idea of that it's kind of a little bit unexplored really still, I think.
I think I just got recommended. I'm trying to find my phone. It's in my pocket. I just got recommended an audiobook.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to recommend to you and the listeners. Just bear with me a sec. It's called Monolithic Undertow.
Right. Okay. That sounds
by Harry Sword, SWORD.
Yeah.
And it's all about drone music.
Okay. So
throughout history.
This is audible.
Oh shit!
Is that electronic or just all general?
No, just the nature of drone throughout human history.
Yeah, I see. Right.
But obviously looking at it through the lens of contemporary drone music, but
yeah,
I think I've only just started listening to it. It looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, there's
In Search of Sonic Oblivion is the subtitle.
No,
anyway, I think you might find that interesting.
I'll look it up. Yeah.
No, what I was going to go back and say is generative music. Yes, that's what I was going to ask.
Right. Yeah.
Is that what that was when you connected everything up?
Yes, it was. I've got this kind of name for it. I call it cyber synthesis.
Oh.
So the idea of cybernetics is it was kind of like it was this sort of post-war concept where they decided to think up a kind of whole new genre of science, really. And cybernetics is the idea that you set up a system that can kind of self-regulate.
Yeah.
So the classic example is like a thermostat on a kettle, let's say. Or like, so you, as soon as it starts kind of boiling and getting into a sort of exaggerated state, something comes in to control it and switches it off and then calms it down. And then if it cools down enough, it will then trigger it to go hot again. But that kind of idea of that of something that can control its own behavior is called cybernetics, actually. And
my friend is a professor of cybernetics.
Really? Yeah, it's an incredible. It's such an interesting field because you can apply that concept to anything. It's kind of from a kettle to the whole universe. They're both cybernetic systems. So, I was kind of looking into this in terms of with synthesis and modular synths in particular, where you could set up a patch that would become chaotic, but then you try and bring in an element that automatically kind of controls it. And so that's I actually did in my last series on the Meme Tune program a whole section each episode on cyber synthesis, and this idea that you can. It's almost like you create life within the synth because it has its own kind of way of continuing and evolving.
I look.
Yeah, it's kind of not all synths can do it, but a lot of modular stuff you can you can do. So one way is with things like envelope followers or switching units, that switch at a certain time, or you can combine these things together and create kind of systems that can evolve naturally, and create their own kind of.
Yeah, this is the power. I mean, I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast are probably completely conversant with the idea of, uh, but voltage controlled
Yeah,
in modular synthesis. But we found out, I mean, with the early UMLI, with the System 100, we found out these things by experimentation, accident.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that love of accident and randomness has stayed with me to this day in terms of,
yeah,
obviously I have to structure things for a pop song or whatever, but in terms of the ambient music I do. And things like having, a simple example is, say, using the voltage output from a low frequency oscillator,
yeah,
modulate two different time bases going against each other,
yeah, yeah,
completely different. And then all of a sudden you've got three different kind of semi-random elements that create this amazing syncopation. We used that quite a lot in the early days,
yeah,
to create kind of Latin American rhythms, for instance.
yeah. Well, those polyrhythms are all, a lot of those polyrhythmic kind of tribal rhythms are done like that, where you have like a pattern of, say, 7 working off a pattern of 8, and then it won't repeat
For a while.
yeah.
And
Right, yeah, they're fascinating, those sorts of things.
I just love all that stuff. And that's what anyway, to cut a long story short, that's why modular synthesis is so wonderful, because it's almost impossible to do using digital synthesis, because you can't easily map control elements of, say, a filter to,
Yeah,
and it's totally inappropriate. And the
yeah,
one thing that stuck in my mind from the Roland manual for the System 100,
yeah,
the final comment in the back
right.
was no illegal connections.
I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
And I did a sample library for Spitfire called No Illegal Connections, which
Oh,
is,
brilliant. Yeah, I do remember that phrase actually. Yeah,
and I thought, fuck me, you mean I can do anything? I can plug anything into anything, and I'm not going to blow it up.
not going to break it. Yeah, yeah.
That's brilliant.
Sure, I have broken a few modulars by patching things wrongly in the past, but it's not
That's
very.
probably because the voltage was wrong or something.
Yeah, or yeah, I've done something really stupid.
Yeah. What's coming next for you then?
Well, Mal's here at the moment.
Is he?
Yeah, he's in the other room at the moment.
Oh, say hello to him for me.
I will. I'm just going to text him to tell him to stop my dog barking. Hang on. Yeah, no. So I've got Mal here doing stuff, and then I've got John Fox coming down
Nice.
in a couple of weeks to finish that album. We're doing a new album basically. So that's that, and then a few other things. Neil, like I said, Neil was here. I've got all these kind of things half finished albums.
You're the nexus of electronic music.
I think, the thing about having a studio like this is because a lot of the people I work with were kind of into this gear, but back in the day, and none of them kind of kept their studios going or kept their gear. And they kind of see my studio and think, oh, I'd love to kind of get in there and, play around for a while. So I get to meet these amazing people through my studio essentially. And I just love working with them.
I think I mean, obviously I do a lot of production myself, and
Yeah.
it's the biggest joy collaborating, isn't it? I think. I'm much prepared to sitting on my own in a studio.
Yeah. The first thing I ever did collaboratively was with John Fox. And it was just because I'd never worked with a singer before even.
Really?
Yeah. It's just so amazing to have someone like that to kind of bounce ideas off and to, because they all bring their own kind of angle to it. They're all kind of unique and have their own kind of way of working and preferences and things. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I've been trying to persuade I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but have you done any stuff with like vocal processing through the synthesizer?
Well, yeah. I mean, all the stuff with Mal, everything goes through
Really?
something filter or ring modulators, or he's
Right.
a big fan of using the pitch shifters and harmonizers.
Right.
And John Fox uses harmonizers on stuff. But I mean, that's the thing about here. It's like I've got like two rule. Well, one major rule is like no plugins. So I know it's a bit of a luxury, but I tend not to like using plugins. So and then the other rule is that patch something into something else. That's the kind of thing. So even if it's just like a synth line, I always like put it through some other effect, or you know
You never know what's going to come out.
no, exactly. And yeah. And so a lot of stuff is on my patch bay. There's sort of different patch bays around the room, and you can connect anything to anything else, all the effects units or filters on the modulars or whatever, you know.
You
It's
give me an idea, actually. I think I'm going to put this out first on video, which is a first.
Oh, really?
I think people will be able to see the studio,
Cool.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it out on YouTube, and then I'll put it out a few weeks later on audio.
Well, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Are you familiar with Annette Peacock?
No, I'm not.
My goodness. Okay. So when I was growing up in the mid-70s, in my teenage years, I was best friends with Phil Oakey, who went on to be the lead singer of blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I heard of it.
he opened my eyes to a lot of different styles of music, including experimental jazz and all kinds of weird stuff. One of the albums he had was by this artist called Annette Peacock.
Yeah.
And she was the first person, as far as I know, in the popular music rock genre to experiment with live modulation of voice through a synthesizer.
Really?
Yes.
Ah.
And there's one particular track which is quite well known because Mick Ronson did a cover version of it on his first album called I'm the One. In fact, this was early 70s.
Really? Okay.
And it's like a you need to listen to it, and everybody else, if they've not heard it, it's on Spotify. She basically all they could do at that point, I think it was probably like a VCS3 or something that we're using, is they fed her vocal into it, and I think she was controlling the ring modulation on her voice, pitch and amplitude. So she was almost like duetting with herself.
Yeah.
Being it was like this. It's like a traditional kind of rock structure.
I want to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in contact with her actually. She's God, Sam, she must be 80.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
Amazing. So everybody go and listen to it. There's an album actually called I'm the One by Annette.
Okay. I'll check that. It's a good
Yeah,
one.
really good. I'll send you a link after we've finished.
Yeah. Okay.
What was that? So yeah, so that's vocal processing, and you're a drummer as well. So do you have electronic drums?
Yeah, I play. Yeah, so I play a lot of Simmons. I love Simmons kits. And
Oh, I love Simmons. I met the guys who designed them.
really? Oh wow.
I interviewed one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Got this thing here. Hang on. This was. Do you know this thing?
Oh, hold on.
That's a claptrap.
That rings a bell.
That's made by a company called Music Aid, which are Simmons. That's like their first brand name was before they were called Simmons.
Oh, how old is that?
It's late 70s. That's
I do remember the name. I just never seen one in the flesh.
That one used to belong to Throbbing Gristle. That's why it's kind of covered in weird stuff. Weird gunk. I don't know what the gunk. I bought that off Chris.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, look, I could talk to you for hours because we're obviously clearly on the same on the same page. It'd be great to meet up at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think we've got a lot in common, and we could probably. I'd love you to hear my 3D sound system.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, where would I do that though?
My studio in London.
Right. Okay.
If you want
Yeah.
to come up, just let me know if you're next time you're in London. And I'll
Yeah.
work Monday to Wednesday in the studio. So
I'll let you know. Yeah. I'll meet you.
yeah, I'd happily. Well, it'd be nice to meet you in the flesh, but also just play some stuff.
Yeah.
Inspire. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
You can always render it into binaural for headphones anyway.
Yeah.
And I've
So
got like.
is it quadraphonic or is it more?
No, it's ambisonic.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like 2 rings of speakers.
Yeah.
Basically dual quadraphonic. It's like a cube, essentially. But you can put as many speakers as you want. It's not.
Yeah.
It does all the processing in the box.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. So just let me know when you're in London. Have you come up to London at all?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do. I've got a lot. Yeah.
Well, if you've got a couple of hours, let me know and I'll happily
Excellent. Yeah.
I'll give you a demo.
Nice one. Yeah. Okay.
Cool, man. One last thing.
Yeah.
No, 2 last things. One is a friend of mine has a recently acquired friend of mine who was introduced to by a third party has for the last 10 years been, maybe longer actually, been accumulating and collecting old kind of cinema and theatre speaker systems
Okay.
from venues that are getting closed down and they're going to get chucked away, a bit like the.
Yeah.
And he has now assembled the most amazing. I'm going to go and see it next week. The most amazing Uber system of this year. Some of the elements are like the it's got like bass horns that are like 8 foot high, and and uh and anyway, I can't remember what it's called now. It's got some really funky name. Anyway, he's just about to expose it to the public, so I'll keep you.
Oh, that sounds.
He's
big on my
in North Greenwich somewhere.
Okay. Yeah.
Top secret at the moment, but he's going to let me know next week.
Okay.
And I always ask people, you probably know these stupid questions at the end. So, what's your favorite film?
Favorite film, Dune, but the good,
The original one.
the original one, the proper one. Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think that's been bettered, and I saw that in the cinema in like 1983 at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
Yeah, I did as well.
Did you? Oh, well,
The same cinema, yeah.
oh really? Yeah. On 70mm, probably. Yeah.
It was
That
beautiful.
incredible film, and whatever. I mean, I actually like the new ones are great as well, but that to me that kind of has everything in it. It's kind of got David Lynch's crazy sort of vision, but also it's really faithful to the book, and you know, I love the book as well, actually. So yeah, that film is still my favorite film of all time.
Yeah. What I think people like me and you seek to do in collaborations and productions is to find those moments of magic that connect with the audience. And I think David Lynch is the king of that.
Yeah.
There are so many scenes in that film that are just burnt into my head.
Oh yeah, it's
That guy floating around the room,
yeah,
and the thing with the fucking thing that's going to go in his eyeball or wherever it is.
yeah.
Magic. These are moments cinema
Back
magic.
hand,
Yeah,
imagery and things. It's amazing. Yeah,
and I find that I honestly found the new versions a little bit. I mean, they're kind of a bit shallow in comparison, to be honest.
yeah. I would say.
Yes. Book. I suppose you're going to say Dune, aren't you?
Well, do you know? It's another author called Ian M. Banks. Do you know?
Oh yeah, I know Ian Banks. What?
So well, yeah, he did. He wrote that, and then he also wrote he sort of had 2 careers in a way. He wrote those books, but he also had a career as a science fiction writer. And was it M. Banks? And those books, he did this kind of whole series called the Culture series, which were sort of from the 80s through to the 2000s, and there's eight or 9 books within them. They're not in order, so you don't have to kind of read them. They're not kind of chronological. They're just part of a series. And there's a book called Use of Weapons, which I just think is amazing. He's like a kind of thinking version of, space opera. It's kind of all set in the far future, and it's kind of, but it's on an amazing scale, and it's got such great ideas in it. And yeah, I think they're fantastic, those books.
That sounds great. I'm gonna have to check that out. Could it be filmed?
No, I don't think they can. They're kind of they're too out there and weird, and sort of I can't really explain it, but you check out one called Use of Weapons. It's kind of, it's absolutely amazing, but it kind of, it's got this really strange narrative. It kind of works backwards almost, the narrative and things. It's kind of really strange kind of construction to it, but it's got the best twist of anything I've ever read at the end of it. It's just mind blowing.
Cool. TV series, past, present, box set, and
Series I'm currently watching, which I've never seen before, The Walking Dead. That's
it's kind of cool.
It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's kind of it's super gory and super like gnarly, but really well written, fantastic.
Yeah,
Written, I think. And
in those kind of series, the one that I like best is no, it's not a zombie movie, but in terms of technically how they made it, The Mandalorian I thought was fantastic.
yeah, that was great. Yeah,
And the way that they filmed it using the hemispheric green screen and all that.
that's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, that is. I love all that kind of they're really pushing that, that the technology of making that sci-fi stuff with those series they're doing.
Yeah, I've got a mate who's a production designer in Hollywood. He did The Terminal, and he did Minority Report. And,
Oh, okay.
I mean, like
High end, yeah.
high end. And he's I've been involved with an organization, an ad hoc organization he did called 4D, the Future of Immersive Designs, for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
He lectures in it in University of Southern California. And he was right at the forefront of this. I suppose it's all AI now. I've not spoken to him for a couple of years, but he was right at the forefront of all this technology and how to.
Yeah.
His core thing is it's all about narrative, and it doesn't matter what tools you use to achieve it.
Yeah.
You look at a lot of early animation, or say Hitchcock films, or the fantasy films in general. They all just use whatever the technology is at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's no different to that, really, is it? Anyway, where were we? So go on. What's your favorite synth?
Very since this one.
Yeah.
The Moog.
The Moog Modular, is it?
Yeah, the Moog Modular probably. It's the one it's the one I go back to most, and sort of, it's just so warm and big sounding, and it's also pretty much the first synth ever built, and Bob Moog kind of got it right immediately. Like his first product, just got it totally right, and that's an early one. The wood, right, for that, the wood cabinet that's in. Apparently, it came from like the trees from his garden that he kind of.
Get away.
Yeah, he used to make them at home. He lived in this nice sort of foresty place, and he used to make his own cabinets out of the trees in his actual garden. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I did an interview with Cyril Lance, who took over from Robert Moog.
Okay, right, yeah.
He designed all the ones after he died. The Fatty and the all that
still going. They're still great. Yeah.
You should have a listen to that if you're not listening to it. It's really interesting. About his design philosophy. He's an actual blues singer-songwriter as well. Can you imagine those two things going together?
Yeah. Good album, a blues Moog album.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Interesting, that.
I don't like blues very much. Anyway, your favorite? Do you like visual art?
Yeah, I studied art. And I still paint a bit occasionally.
Okay, who's your favorite visual artist or conceptual artist?
Francis Bacon.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah, I love Francis Bacon. I just think he's on another level almost. It's kind of like, no one else He's like no one else before or since. So
A lot of people there are a lot of wannabe Bacons, but then not.
yeah, there are, but you can't really. He spent his whole life kind of trying to get to one place. Every painting's about the same thing essentially that he did. It's about trying to kind of get to the heart of what it is to be human and be.
I know I'm an enormous fan. You must have seen the huge retrospective.
Yeah, I go to everything I can of his.
Yeah.
My wife bought me the catalogue raisonné, which is
Oh, you are.
around.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's just the most amazing thing. It's got every piece he ever did and writing about it all. It's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah,
Um.
that's probably my favorite book. In fact,
Is it?
yeah, it's
They can't lift it.
no, it's huge. It's about this big. Yeah.
Right. I like that. Okay. Final question is, a piece of music. Here's a special question for you. A piece of electronic music that I was going to say makes you cry, but it makes you feel emotional, shall we say?
I think it's an album called Phaedra by Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
To me, it's their pinnacle of what they could do. And again, it's like a little bit like Francis Bacon and Davy Lynch. They kind of did something totally unique, but did it so well that it couldn't have been bettered, in my opinion. So that album Phaedra is just I listen to it all the time, like I put it on all the time, and it's just perfect. I think it's got so much emotion in it, so much. It's really exploring, trying to push, sound exploration. It's got no kind of rules. They totally made their own rules up for it. It's
Delivery boy, excuse me.
uh,
I'll leave it. It's right. We finished anyway. That was a tremendous talk. Again, we could probably have talked for hours, but please, please, please let me know when you're in London.
okay. I will do that. Yeah.
All right, man.
It's really
Brilliant.
nice to meet you. Thanks so
I
much.
will see you very soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.